Good morning, everybody. We go to the Chita. So today, we learn today memory. Today's Yahrzeit of Leah Bas
Zelig, Zelig,
Zelig
Lipa.
Lipa. Thank you. Leah Bas Zelig Lipa should have an neshama, should have an aliyah. Should be a good ambassador for a whole beautiful family. So we're holding Pashas Truma. We are holding the second reading of the portion of Truma. We are holding in chapter 25, verse number 17. It is talking about making the arein. Vasisa kapedis, to make a cover over the ark. The haftar, that means to be made out of pure gold. Vasayim v'chetzi arkai, it should be 2.5 cubits its length. V'ama v'chetzi rachbei, and 1.5 cubits its width. Now she says the cover of the ark, which was open from above, right? Because there was 3 boxes that had an opening to open. It was all 4 sides in the bottom, each box, but it didn't have a cover, and you had to place one cover upon the entire all the boxes, all the 3 boxes. Like the length of the oven, the width was like the width of the oven, and the lay in the thickness of the 4 walls. Although the Torah does not give the measurement of its thickness, how thick the actual oven was, the cover, but our rabbis explained that it was a handbreadth. Tefach. A tefach is called a handbreadth. So that's the width of the width of 4 fingers. That's how much a tefach is. Then you to make 2 cherubims. The hov made out of gold. Miksha tasa isam, it needs to come out from the cover. Shnei ktavas hakapedus has to come out from the cover, from the 2 ends of the cover. I mean, they can be glued on. It has to be come out from the cover. These 2, you have to take 1 big block of gold and come out a cover and 2 cherubim that come out of this cover. Kruvim, now she says they were the features of a child. Gemara says that faces of children, 1 child of a boy and the other child of a girl. Mikshatasa isam. This means that we should not make them separate, then join them at the end of the cover after they are made, as the goldsmiths do. It's called soldering, to solder something to something else. Instead, they would take a large quantity of gold at the beginning of the construction of the ark cover and beat it out with a hammer, with a mallet in the center of the mass of gold, so that the end produces upwards. So this was a very talented job to do. Best thing would be to make a mold and pour the gold into this mold, but they didn't do that. They took a piece of gold and they banged it out until it came out. From the banging came out, made a cherubim from the banging of the gold. Miksha, Rashi says, hammered out, knocked out, one against the other. To the end of the ark. You should make 1 cherub from this end, and 1 cherub from this end. Mina kapedis, it comes out from the cover. Tasas akruvim, you should make these cherubim like shake tzavas on 2 of its ends. Now, the text elaborates so that you will not say that it means 2 cherubim at each end. Therefore, it explains 1 cherub at one end. Doesn't mean they make it 2 cherubim from one side. You can think it to be 1 cherub from one side, the other cherub from the other side. Mina kapedis. Itself, you shall make these cherubim. This is the meaning: you shall make them hammered outward. That one should not make them separately and then attach them to the ark. These cherubim shall have wings spread upwards, shielding the ark. That means their wings have to go over the ark, covered with their wings, al hakapedus, upneim ishal achas, and their faces should face one another. Al hakapedus, towards the face of the cover. You pnei akruvim shall be the faces of these cherubim. Now, this means that one should not make their wings lying down, like on the side of their bodies, but the wings should be standing up, but they need to be towards covering the ark, facing each other. but spread high alongside their heads, so that there should be 10 handbreadths in the space between the wings and the ark. So there had to be a separation between the wings and the ark. The ark covered 10 handbreadths. 10 handbreadths is the tefa, 10 tfachim. Then you take this cover with the cherubim that come out from it, and you put it on the Aron. In the Aron, you have to put the Edus, the testimony, the 10 Commandments. What I'll give you. Now she says, I did not know why it's repeated. Already said this in yesterday. We said this verse. I already say you shall place in the ark the testimony. We may say that it comes to teach us that when the ark is still an ark alone, without an ark cover, Moshe should first place the testimony and then place the cover upon it. So we find that when Moshe erected the Mishkan, it says he placed the testimony in the ark, and afterwards he placed the cover above it. So some might think maybe you put the testimony outside the ark, on top of the ark. So here the Torah tells us maybe that you have to first put the that's one of the things that the Rebbe says, that the tablets were not round, but they were actually flat, like a box. In the pictures of many synagogues, you have the tablets as round tops. But in the Torah, it's seemingly like they fit everything. They put the tablets into the box. It fits the box. The tablets fit the box itself, and the cover laid right on top of the tablet itself. So it was a very tight fit. So therefore the Rebbe says that mistrably that the tablets were a box, not like you see on many synagogues with the round tops, but they're actually a box. And I will meet you there. I'll speak to you from the top of this box, from the top of this cover. And my voice will come out from between the two cherubim. Asher ala Aron Edus, which is upon the Aron. So everything I command you, Bnei Yisrael, to the Jewish people. When I arranged a meeting for you to speak with you, it is at that place that I arranged for the meeting where I will come and speak to you. Whatever it says, the Lord spoke to him, the 10th meeting, saying, that is the Mishkan. Outside the dividing curtain. He was outside. He didn't go into the Holy of Holies, where the ark was within the dividing curtain. Two verses are found to contradict each other. The third verse comes and reconciles them. And when Moshe Rabbeinu came to the 10th meeting, he heard the verse speaking to him from the top of the ark. The solution is that Moshe would enter the Mishkan. As soon as he came into the doorway, a voice would descend from heaven to the place between the cherubim, from where it emanated and then heard by Moshe. But Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into the Holy of Holies. He stood at the tent of meeting. He stood at the doorway. It's kol asher atzaveh ischa. Everything I command you. The vav, and Rashi adds means and it's superfluous. Ve, it's just es kol asher atzaveh. Everything I command you. What's ve and everything I command you? There are many similar examples in the Torah, and you shall interpret it thus, and all that I speak with you, that are all that I will command upon you, the children of Israel, everything that I command upon you, everything and everything, it all comes from one place, all comes from God through the cherubim that was on the top of the earth. Verse 23, then you shall make me a table made out of acacia wood. A Masayim Orke, the table shall be 2 cubits its length. 1 cubit its width. And a cubit and a half its height. Now she says the height of its legs together with the thickness of the tabletop needs to be an amma and a chaitzia, a foot, a cubit and a half. Then he takes his table that you built out of wood and you cover it over with pure gold. And you make a crown upon this table. What we said before, what is the crown upon the other? It's Kesed Torah, the crown of Torah. And therefore, Rashi says, similar Kesed Malchus. This table was symbolic to the crown of kingship. Shashulchan, because the table represents wealth and greatness. As its verse says, Shulchan Malachim, a royal table. So too, in essence, every person's table should be a table of royalty. And you should make for me a frame, handbreadth width, saviv, all around it. You should make a golden crown for its frame all around. What does it mean? A frame, tiger uncle is gedufa, a rim. You make a rim around the top, around the table's rim. The sages of Israel differ. Not clear exactly where this rim should be. Some hold it's on top. Some say that it was above the top of the table, around the table, like a rim at the edge of the table, like of princes. Some say it was below the tabletop. So it's not exactly sure. The table had a top, every table has a tabletop. So the question of where this rim was the rim that they made this beautiful golden rim around it? Was it on top of the table, underneath the table? Some say it was below the top of the table, inserted from one leg to another on the four sides of the table. A tabletop lay on that frame. And then you have to make a crown above that rim. That the crown mentioned above, and here he explains that it should be above. It was on the frame of the table. So now we'll just talk about the table. The table that then has to be put showbreads, but right now it's just a golden table. On the four corners of his table, you should make golden rings. You take these four golden rings and you put it on the four corners, to the four legs of this table. The ring should be opposite the frame. The should be the holder, the opposite that frame of the table. The bottom that they should be for the poles, to carry the shulchan. So again, they made poles to carry the shulchan, but again, not different than the other. The shulchan, after they put it in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan, they would take the poles out. On the legs, it's inserted opposite the end of the frame. So wherever the frame ended, if there was this crown around it, not crown, this beautiful surrounding mesh that was around it. If it was on the bottom, it was right after it. Or if it was not, it was right after the top of the bottom of the table. Labotim levadim, those rings shall be as holders in which insert the poles. Labotim meaning for the sake of the holders. Sisa badim atzishitim, you should make them poles made out of acacia wood. Tzipisa so zav, you cover it with gold. The nisa bamas hashulchan, the table shall be carried with these poles. Asher to pass over the table shall be carried with the poles. Verse 29. Now the Torah says what to do on top of the table. Sisa kares kapes v'kashuris u'minikas, and then you should make forms. Its spoons, its half pipes. Asher yusabem zav ter, which will be made out of cover, which will be covered, which supports will be made out of pure gold. These forms and spoons and half pipes should be made. Now she says, you have three words over here: kares, kapes, karesav. It's forms which is made according to the shape of the bread. The bread was made in the shape of a type of a box without a cover. That's why it's called lechem haponim, the show bread, because it was made in a way, it was like a matzah, a thick matzah, a lafa, thick lafa. It was a matzah. It was not chametz. That was looked like a U, like a box. I mean, it had a bottom and two sides facing each other. Lechem haponim, the showbreads. They each side of the lafa faced one another. It had a flat bottom and it would bent upwards on both sides, forming something similar to walls. Therefore, it's called lechem hapanim, literally breads of the faces, because the face looked at both directions toward the side of the Mishkan, from here and from that direction, and from there in the other direction. It was placed lengthwise across the width of the table, and its walls stood vertically opposite the edge of the table. A golden form of an iron would be made for it. It was baked on Friday in the iron form, and it was taken out of the oven, and it would be placed in the golden form until the next day, which was on Shabbos, and it was arranged on the table on Shabbos. And the form that it was placed on is called a kaida. So it was based on two things that was like either was not clear exactly what this form was. Was it a flat form? Was it something that had two like legs? But was it a concept that it laid on it, and then it was laid on the shulchan, one on top of the other, because there were 12 showbreads, 12 lechem hapanim, 6 on each side. The kapes, these are the spoons in which the frankincense was placed. This was placed in the bottom. There were 2 spoons meant for the 2 handful of frankincense that were placed aside 2 stacks. And it says, you shall place them beside the stacks of pure frankincense. Kashias is a sort of a half a tube. They are sort of a half a tube, hollow and split along their length. They're similar to tubes made of gold. 3 tubes are arranged on for each bread, so that each bread will rest upon these tubes. There was separated one bread from the other, so that air would enter between them. The bread would grow, because if you put it together, it was hot. It would grow moldy. Any hollow thing is called a kasha. That's a kashiesa, is a concept of a half a tube. I gotta get a picture. So we'll show it to you exactly. Oh, I think I take this out before. Okay. So these are the tubes. This is the kara. That's the kara. So that's what it laid in. Here's more pictures. You can see it. The picture. See this picture on the bottom, you see the 2 little cups on the bottom with the frankincense, with the ketoides that was put on the bottom of, next to the 2. This was the shulchan, something like this. You have different arguments about this shulchan. So Rashi said, it's called a half a tube. These tubes were half tubes. That's how Rashi learns it. Half tubes. Here you have a picture of a half a tube. See how the tube is cut in the middle. Half tubes. Umanakiesa, Rashi says, this is the beers, they are branches like golden pegs standing on the ground and reaching up to the considerable height towards the above table, corresponding to the height of the bread. So the poles of which the bread stood upon, these were regular tubes, not half tubes, but full tubes. They were notched like six notches, one above the other. And the end of the pipes between one bread and the other were supported by these branches. So the burden of the upper bread would not weigh down on the lower one and cause them to break. The version of the Mechilta, the beer is similar to I am weary of bearing Heichel. I don't know why the Minyan case applies to the branches. Other sages, visuals say the Kashiyasa refers to the branches and which were hardened. If the showbread had and the strength so did not break, Manakiyasa refers to the pipes, which cleaning menakim the bread so that it would not become moldy. But Uncle is who renders manikiyasa mechileisah understood the similar way that the words of one sage who say menikiyasa with its branches. It's not clear exactly what each word over here means. Which means it will be covered regarding the half pipes. It says which will be covered because you cannot see the half pipes. Only saw the outside full pipes. The half pipes were underneath the bread. And upon the shulchan you should put the lechem upon him, the showbreads. They should always be before me at all times. These 6 showbreads, 12 showbreads, 6 on each side. Ashes lechem upon him, bread of faces, given this meaning because their faces, as explained, the number of breads and the order of the stacks are explained in Parshas Elakanim later on in Leviticus. He'll tell you how many breads, how many lechem upon him there were, and how they were stacked. You'll learn it later in the book of Vayikra. That completes the Chumash for today. We're now going to go to the Tanya. In chapter 27, the 27th chapter of Dal Rebbe, which Dal Rebbe is in the middle of explaining the concept if a person chas v'shalom, a normal person that has is not a tzaddik, so a person that's not a righteous person has machshava zoros. He might have he has concepts of things that he thinks about during the day while he's working, and he might feel depressed. Why does he have these machshavas zaris? Why does he have these alien thoughts and maybe immoral thoughts, unethical thoughts? Why does he have these taiva thoughts, these desire kind of force during this day? Look at him, he's a terrible person. The Alter Rebbe said the opposite. The pasuk says that you shouldn't follow the desires of your hearts and what you see with your eye. Who is the Torah talking about? Self-understood. The Torah is talking about somebody who has those kind of desires. Somebody that sees something, and the second he sees it, he has some kind of maybe a lustful thought. So therefore, the Torah is not talking to a tzaddik. The Torah is talking to a Beinoni. The Torah tells a Beinoni that if he suddenly sees something, well, that's his nature. That's a natural thing. That the second he sees something, he might have a thought about it. What should he do with that? Do a mitzvah. Do right away a mitzvah. And the mitzvah is don't look away. The mitzvah is start to think about something else. And therefore, how many mitzvahs the Eibush should send you every day? Especially a person that goes out to work. Especially a person that deals with a lot of people. He goes out, he's a businessman, he's going to see a lot of things during the day. He might hear a lot of things during the day. And everything might be a contradiction to his Avodas Hashem. So the Eibush says, listen, be happy. I'm giving you a mitzvah. Every time you see something, the Eibush wants to give you an unbelievable mitzvah. God wants to give you an unbelievable good deed. Then if you understand this concept, so then the Alter Rebbe says, you'll understand what I'm going to say next thing. And the contrary, if a person thinks, why do I have such kind of thoughts? That comes from your ego. You're making yourself greater than you are. Because a person that's not a tzaddik should know that he's not a tzaddik. And there's nothing wrong that he's not a tzaddik. There's nothing wrong about it. The Eibishter, he's not in the level of a tzaddik, and he shouldn't be depressed that he's not a tzaddik. He should realize his place. And therefore, when a person doesn't want to understand his place, and that's why he's distressed. Why am I not a tzaddik? Why he has not attained the level of a tzaddik? Why am I not a righteous person? You're not a righteous person because that's not your service. That's not your avodah. The avodah is not to be a righteous person. The avodah is to be a beinani. And because if you're a tzaddik, a tzaddik whom foolish thoughts sterling do not occur. If you would recognize your situation, your station in life, that he's far, far away from the level of tzaddik. He should wish that he's a beinani, and not somebody who's wicked all the days of his life. Even for one moment. So therefore, meaning this is what he should be striving for the present rather than vainly desiring to be a tzaddik. That's it. The Eibishter made us not, most of Yidden, that we're not tzaddikim. You know, it says, V'amech kulam tzaddikim. We're all righteous. In a certain level, we're all righteous. But ultimately, in a day-to-day situation, we're not righteous people. And the proof is that I have machshavah, that when I see something, I have automatically a thought, a desireful thought. That's one of the ways that Rashi explains how the ephod looks. We're going to soon see. Rashi in the next week's parsha is going to come to the ephod. And how do you know the ephod? Because he saw princesses riding a horse. So imagine Rashi saw princesses riding a horse. He thought to himself, why did the Eibishter show him? Rashi writes, why did the Eibishter show him these princesses riding on horses? And the answer was that Rashi says, I learned from here what the ephod looked like. So Rashi, when he saw princesses riding on horses, what his thought was, how does the ephod look like in the Beis Hamikdash? How did the ephod look like in the Torah? That's a tzaddik that doesn't see anything. He doesn't see the princess. He doesn't see the way the princess is dressed. He sees an ephod. He sees the ephod. He sees the garment that the Kohen Gadol wore, and that's why the Eibishter showed him this situation. So when he be able to write Rashi, and Rashi is the only one who says what the ephod looks like, and he says, I saw it. I understand what the ephod looks like because I saw the princesses driving on the streets of France. But when a regular person sees a princess riding on a horse, he has other machshavas. He has other thoughts and other concepts. And he thinks, why do I have this kind of thoughts? And the answer is because you have a nefesh of Bahamas, because you're not Rashi. And you're not, and you might never be Rashi. And you're not a tzaddik. And therefore, you're a wish to be a beinani, that if the thought comes to your mind when you see this princess and you think, oh, what am my thoughts going to be? And you should have the natural thought for the second and push it off. It's a surah of I don't follow the thought. This is surely the due measure of a beinani and his avodah. To subdue the evil impulse, that a thought that has arisen from his heart to the mind. And to completely avert his mind from it. To push it off with his two hands, as explained in chapter 12. So the Alter Rebbe explained it, that the evil of the animal's soul, the beinani, remains vigorous, and therefore the second my eyes see something, I'm going to have a machshava. I'm going to have a thought. That's me, who I am, and that's me. As Alter Rebbe said, unless you're a frigid individual. So if you want to say you don't have any machshavas, is not because you're a tzaddik either, because you're basically a frigid individual. But if you're a person who has a heart that has warm, and he has passion. So the Eibishter automatically, since I have a nefesh Bahamas, it's going to create a machshava. I'm a normal human being. It's automatically create a thought in my mind. And now the question is, can I push it away? So in essence, every time the Eibishter Ratzah Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Zakis Yisrael, the Eibishter wanted to give me a schus, that every time I walk in the street, every time I see something, can I push it away or not? Can I move my eyes away? Can I start thinking something else? And the second I do that, I've done a mitzvah. I've done a mitzvah. I've overcome myself. I follow the pasuk that I say every day, a couple of times a day. Do not follow your eyes. Not your heart. In your eyes. What you see. And that's the mitzvah I receive. That's the mitzvah I receive. Thus, he has no vigorous. His task is to prevent it from expressing itself in thought, speech, and action. So that the Alter Rebbe explained us in chapter 12 that the original thought is natural. You're a human being, and you're going to see things, and you're not a tzaddik. You're not going to see the holiness in it. You're going to see the physicality. You're going to see the mundaneness. You might even see the pleasure in it, and you need to automatically move away. You need to automatically. That's the mitzvah that I'm going to receive if I move away. Thus, he has no control over a current of evil thoughts in his mind, but over acceptance or rejection of those thoughts. I have the mitzvah to push away the thought. I don't have the capability not to have the thought. That would be, I don't have a nefesh Bahamas. I don't have an animalistic soul. I do have an animalistic soul. And therefore, now I have the mitzvah to push it off. What a beautiful concept. And as the Alter Rebbe said, every one of us needs to have one thing, and that is makir mekaymer she'enei makir mekaymer. As the Alter Rebbe writes, most of us, I'm not talking about clinical depression, most of us have depression because we don't know our place. We always think we should be somebody else, someplace else, with something else. Any place you are in life, that's where God brought you. Realize your place. That's why the Mishnah says, Eizo Asha Semeach Bechelkoi. Who is a wealthy person, a person who is happy with his chelek. And as the Alter Rebbe said, Makim Mekoimoi, that you know your place in this world. The Eibishter put you in a place. The Eibishter brought you to a certain place. The Eibishter created you. He wants you in this place. And now the Eibishter wants you to do the best that you can do in the place you're in, and don't run to another place. Don't think another place is better. Don't think another person is better. Don't think another person's successes are better. Every person, the Eibishter created every person his mekoymeh, his place. And another Mishnah says, Ein lach adam ein ladav she'ein l'shav ve'ein lach adam she'ein l'makom. Every person has his place. You have your Daled Amis. You need to create your Daled Amis, the 4 cubits of feet in this world. Create me a place. Make your place. Let the place not make you. You should make the place. A chassid makes his place, not the place makes him. And that's what's important to understand. That a person has to know who he is, what he is, and what he has to do. And stop complaining. I could be someplace else. I should be someplace else. I would be someplace else. Wherever you are right now, that's where Eibishter wants you to be at this present time. And therefore, Al Yira Levave. If the Eibishter wants you to be here right now, then that's what the Eibishter wants you to accomplish. That God wants you to accomplish at this moment, at this place. And if you have atzvus, that you're not in another place, or another person, another situation, then it's gases haruach, it's conceit, it's ego, concept of ego. And we need to break our ego to know exactly who we are. That completes the Tanya of the day. Today is the 3rd day of the month, which is chapter 18 in Tehillim, in Psalms, chapter 18 to chapter 22. If you do those 5 chapters of Tehillim, you do the Chitas. of the day. Wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day. Midshem, we'll see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. We'll continue the chitas of the day. Let us all know who we are, where we are, and what we're supposed to do in that place.